Right, and we are live again. Welcome. Um, yeah, I see no one's currently online, so I'll just get started with working on the chatbot today. So yeah, hopefully anyone will join and we'll get this party started. So if you join, feel free to let me know who you are. You can use the chat for that. And yeah, let's get started. So what are we going to do today? We're currently building a chatbot using the Microsoft Bot Framework, and we're going to use Azure Logic Apps to make it easy for others to add new skills to it. Perfect. It's an existing bot, so let's dive in and see what it looks like currently. Alright, so this is the project of the bot, and yeah, I've been doing some stuff with it already, but let's see if we can get this puppy up and running so that we can see what it looks like in its current state. Before we are going to try to deploy this automatically to Azure. Yeah, so making sure that everything is set to what it was before. I was trying to debug some issues with the Azure KeyFault, but that finally worked for me. So let's see if it still compiles and runs. So it's quite the weather outside today. We have a lot of rain and thunder. So if you hear some rumbling noises in the background, that's because of the thunder that you probably hear. But we're safe inside, hopefully. It looks like it's going to be a perfect day to do some coding. Alright, so it's running now. It's listening on port 3979. So let's see if I fire up the emulator. So this is the bot emulator, and let's just restart this conversation. Get a 500. That's not gonna be good. So why is that? Sometimes you just need to restart the emulator if it has been running for too long. And I have had this open for a couple of days, so let's see if this works. No, still the same thing. A 500. So we get an exception, but what is this exception all about? So let's see if we just can get into our controller. So we have here the bot controller. Basically, what the emulator is doing is sending a message. So we can see what it's doing. That's the posts. I was expecting to see the actual URL. Well, it's hitting this URL. This is going to this bot controller here, and it's gonna do this process, this post async. So let's set a breakpoint here. Restart conversation, and still nothing. Make sure that everything in my maybe that's let's see. I've commented out some stuff because I was having issues of trying to narrow it down. So let's re-enable everything. This has to do with the authentication, but the most important thing was probably the Cosmos DB for the state. And since we didn't have anything, oh, this looks good. With the state, why is it red suddenly? Hi, I see that we have a viewer. Could you make yourself known? I would like to know who you are, where you're from, and what you're interested in following along. So I might be able to answer some questions, or if you have some input, that's very welcome too. Alright, not sure if it's running now. It's running. It's still a bit weird why this is a red screen, but anyway. Yeah, so now it's entering the controller, so it's probably the Cosmos DB most importantly. So now I get a message back and I can ask almost everything. That's not really true yet, but we'll make that work. But I can ask, for example, wow, Thunder's really going crazy right now. I can ask who the customer engagement manager is for a particular customer. And that's actually at the moment going to run a logic app, and that logic app needs to call back to my API that I'm running locally, and therefore I'm going to run ngrok. So I have that in my downloads here. So let's fire up ngrok. So I do ngrok, and I'm going to set up a tunnel, an HTTP tunnel to port 3979. So that's the port where my API currently is running at. And I currently have a subscription to ngrok so that I can have a fixed subdomain, so that I do not get a random subdomain each and every time I need to run ngrok. And I would have to go around all my settings and make sure that it was using that new random domain, but I can now use my own fixed domain, which is quite nice. So now that my tunnel is up and running, the logic app can actually call back to my API and it can test out the dialog. So who is Sam for customer? Just trying this out, and it needs to hit the intent. Right, so as you notice, the first thing we need to do is actually sign in before we can use this bot. And that's because we implemented the OAuth prompt in the bot, and I'll show you in a moment what that looks like. And we need to do this in order to be able to have this bot be multi-tenant. So I want to have a single, Thijs there. Nice of you to join. Welcome. Good to let me know who is the viewer currently. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to press the follow button so that well, I have a new follower and you can get notified when I stream. And it's also a good way to test out if that following that following is also working. You should see that on screen too if you press the follow button. Oh yes. Thanks Thijs for following. Excellent. Thank you for supporting this channel. Well, let me know if you want some, if you have some questions on the bots, and otherwise just follow along what I'm doing. So I was explaining that I have this sign-in option so that I can have this bot be multi-tenant. So if you sign in using your company account for the company that you work for, you will only get to see the dialogues registered for your own company, and if someone else from a different company signs in with their accounts, they would not see the same data and the same dialogues as you. So we separate these accounts based on the tenant where you're at, and therefore you need to sign in. So that's basically what we use to sign in for at this moment. And it also allows us to get some more details on who you are and send you a more personalized message, including your name, for example. So there are some issues currently with the latest version of this emulator, so we can check out if there's perhaps an update. There is an update, so let's see if they fixed this. So we are currently on 4.40. Oh, that's not the latest one. I believe it's 4.5.2. Let's see, bot Framework Emulator. So if you go here, oh, that would be the quicker link. So there's a GitHub page that hosts the bot Framework Emulator. And currently there's an issue. Let's see if they have a new release. You need to go to the releases page. And currently it's the current version 4.5.2. Which is the one version that I already tested, and I believe we have submitted an issue. Let's see if quickly find it. Maybe I can find it using my name. No, I have not submitted the issue. That might be why I'm not able to find it. Anything mentioning you? No. Then I have to scan through it. See if there's anything with the auth. I should be able to find my own issues. I do not have that much activity, as you can tell. Interesting. Let's see. Let me quickly try to find it on my phone. $16.55. That's not a very descriptive meaning. Oh. It's not in the bot builder framework emulator. It's in the bot builder samples. Microsoft bots builder samples. So here you have some samples for how to build a bot. Yeah, I fixed the GPU issues, Thijs. And I didn't, so hear me out. So I was able to select the NVIDIA GPU in my service book to be my main display adapter. I thought that would solve the issue with the performance. But when I switch to the NVIDIA GPU, I am not able to stream my my screen over the network using the scan converter. So I'm using this little tool over here for NDI scan converter, which basically transmits my screen over my internal network. And in the streaming tool that I use, the Streamlabs OBS, I can pick up that stream. But for some reason, if I switch it to NVIDIA, I do not get a stream at all. So it's blank. So I had to switch back to the Intel onboard GPU. That works. And I figured out what the issue was. So currently I have my service book in front of me, but slightly opened so that it can be cooled. I forgot to do that last week, and it was already hot inside, so it was probably thermal issues and was throttling to keep it cool, and therefore I had a lot of performance issues. Today it's a little bit cooler, and I have my service book 2 open so that it can cool better, and now it appears to be fine. Alright, so here we have the bot builder samples, and then there's this OAuth not working with the latest version. And as you'll notice, I clicked sign in. I already signed in this time, but if I say something else, it will tell me it was not successful. Try it again, probably get a new prompt. And for some reason it is signed in. So it's a little bit wonky right now. It should, when the sign in completes, it should trigger an event in my bot. That does not happen, but I can force it by going to the settings of the emulator and tell it to use the sign-in verification code for OAuth cards. That will use a method where you need to enter a code to the bots. So let's try that again. For example, restart. Maybe I'm still signed in, so that might not be completely fair. I'm not signed in anymore, so it asks me to sign in now. So this time it tells me to enter this particular code in the chat window, and that makes it work. Thanks for hanging out with us today, Thijs. See you later. It doesn't understand this intent, that number, of course, so I need to handle that, but at least now we're signed in. So now I can ask who the SIM is for the customer. I need to work a little bit on the recognition of the intent. For an example, I continue to show who what your name is, so that since you're authenticated, I'm able to do that. And this is something that comes back from the Logic app that I wrote. All right, let me show you the Logic app briefly. I have it open here. So I have here the Coco SEM dialog, and you can tell it has run just a minute ago, and it's very simple dialog at this moment. So it starts a dialog for a particular intent. Oh, it's trying to fetch the intent, and we get some conversation reference that we use, and I'm just sending back a static message currently. So it's very simple, and we want to build this out so that we can do some more complex dialogues. But basically this is what it's doing, and as you can tell, it's working. So my bot is up and running over here. So that's perfect, but now what if we want to run it in Azure? So eventually I want to release it automatically using a CI/CD process, and I'm gonna use Azure DevOps to do that. But initially, my initial workflow usually is to deploy it manually first, see if I can get all the bits and pieces to work, and then try to set it up using CI/CD pipeline. So I have already created an app service here called Company Connect API, and it's a test version. Since this is going to be used in the URL, I always add the TST to the end for resources that are globally or unique within the resource group. You do not need to do that. So that's because of some of them do not have tests in them because you're already in a test resource group. And it's a little bit verbose. So I have this app service here. What I can do from my project is right click, publish, and tell it to publish to this particular app service. So now we'll create a build of my project and upload it, publish it to the app service. And there we are. So now it's running. It should be running in Azure. And the fact that it's working now, well, it's not working, as we can tell. So we need to investigate why it's not doing what it should be. And this is a little bit cryptical, so yeah, I don't know where to start looking now. So we'll have to see if we can get some more details on what actually went south. So first, we have an API currently that is not authenticated. Or maybe we can use that and see if that works. So that's intense. Make sure that we are serving the HTTPS version. It's still an internal server error. Right, that's kind of bonkers. What we can do is set some breakpoints in our code and try to debug it. So here we have the Cloud Explorer. I'm signed in with my InSpark account, and I have a couple of subscriptions here. And in this particular subscription, I have this app service that you also saw in the portal, and I can attach a debugger to it. And then if I try to request the Intense API endpoint, I hope to get a breakpoint. If I do not break at this particular point, it means that I have an issue in the startup, and that kind of sucks because that's really hard to debug. Anyway, let's try to hit this endpoint again, and as you can tell, we do not hit this breakpoint, so we have an issue somewhere in our startup. So that can have something to do with the KeyFault, and we can check that we have proper permissions to the KeyFault. Let's see. So how this works, we have in our resource group, we have a KeyFault, and within that KeyFault we have set up all the settings currently. There's not much in here yet. We have that in a different KeyFault at the moment, but we'll transfer that to this particular KeyFault. But what this piece of code here does, so when we start up our web application, our web API, we're going to add an additional source to our configuration. and we are gonna add the Azure KeyFault as a source, and that's gonna point to the Azure KeyFault as it has been configured, and it's gonna use this particular KeyFault client to be able to access the secrets in the KeyFault. And we're gonna use the Azure Service Token Provider for the authentication. And what this does is it will use the managed identity of the web app, of the app service to authenticate to our KeyFault. And for local development, it will use my currently signed in user. So that's me, and it will try to authenticate using that. So let's check if that's it's configured correctly. So first, in this app service, we're going to check if we have enabled the managed identity. So we go to the app service, and then on the left we select the identity, and as you'll notice, it's turned on, and this created an app registration in Active Directory with this particular ID. So this is good. The other thing is that we need to configure in our configuration the name of the KeyFault. So here's the KeyFault name, and as you'll notice in our source code, we expect that to be there, and we'll use that to build the URL to the KeyFault. And it's set to Company Connect TST, and that indeed is the name of our KeyFault, so Company Connect TST. So that's good. Then we need to ensure that we have set up an access policy so that the web app can actually connect to KeyFault. And over here you can tell that I have added the application, and I gave it permissions to get and list all the secrets, and that's the 2 permissions that it needs. So that looks to be completely in order. Then I start to understand what's going on, because we at startup it's gonna pull all the configuration from the KeyFault, and it expects to be some pieces of configuration to be in there. And as you'll notice, for example, on the startup, so for example we have here, it expects to be an Azure AD section in our configuration, and a little bit more down it also expects to be a Cosmos DB section to be there. And if you have been paying a little bit of attention, you'll have seen briefly that I only have one secret in here, which is called AFS token. So we miss a lot of secrets. So let's add those secrets first. And to do that, let's go to the other resource group and the other KeyFault that I used to use, but we're gonna migrate this bot to different KeyFaults. And if we go to secrets here, you'll notice we have a lot of extra keys in here. Yeah, we'll need to copy them. Can we somehow migrate secrets? Let's see if that's if there's something that can do that for us. Well, let's see if this works. So let's fire up. Let's do it in codes. Save as. Copy secrets PS1. So we can paste this in. So we want to copy it from source fault name. Not sure. Let's define them here. Source fault name equals, I believe it was called Nikki TST, and then this fault name equals company connects TST. Okay. Let's run it. Pressing F5. Oh, it's gonna run the wrong script now. That's not supposed to happen. Let's run it this way instead. Copy secrets. Is it doing something? Is it not doing something? I don't know. We can always check. No, I don't think it's working. Anyway, let's. There was that sign-in window. That was what I was waiting for. Anyway, let's try to run it from the desktop instead. Looks more like it. Sign in. To prove this. Okay, cool. Was not really that much output, but it's working as we can tell. Perfect. Let's finish. Awesome. So that way I did not need to show my secrets, which is perfect. And now, does it work? So we go to our company connects. It ran, of course, already, so did not catch up on the secrets being available. Let's just restart it. That way it will reload all the settings from the KeyFault. Just a couple of seconds to actually reloads. Takes longer than I expect, but there we go. This time it should work. It's just using the same settings as before. There we go. But this time using the new KeyFault. That's actually kind of nice. Close this. So the proof of the pudding, let's try to have a chat with so I'm not gonna call it Nikki anymore, let's call it Coco. It's derived from company connects, and the endpoints is actually this /API/messages. I need to specify the Microsoft App ID and App passwords, I believe. But the App ID is fine. You have this stored, by the way. Just at the SPN, the App ID and App password. So I can get them from the KeyFault. So I'm fine with showing this. So it's hidden, that's good to know. That way I can also copy app passwords without actually showing. Copy and paste it here. Save and connects. So let's save this in our repository. All right, switch bots. So this time it's connecting to our service in Azure. Since this emulator is running locally and the bot is now running remotely, we need to again use ngrok so that the bot can actually send messages back to my chat window. That's why we see this error here, and we can set up ngrok. I need to go to my downloads folders, and I have ngrok here. Save. Now let's try this again. Bot is remote, but the server's URL. Close without turning software you will not receive. Should I disable this? That's the thing. No, that's not the thing. I need to set that. Okay. Now close it and then open it. let's make sure to restart the emulator. So NGRock is not entirely happy anymore. Let's read the docs. Let's do a bot hosted remotely. You need to install and configure tunnels. It's kinda hot in here. Still raining. Let's see if I can open up a window. Get some fresh air in. Yeah, it's not saying that much. Sending a conversation update. See if you can find something. I'm not really confident about this error. Oh, maybe this is not gonna work, but is there something else that we can try? Well, no, I want to try it this way. Why is it not working? Something's up with NGRock. Does perhaps have anything to do? I can stop this one now. Maybe stop my other NGRock. See if that's not reconnecting now. What? This is my emulator. Let's try this again, and perhaps maybe. See, now it's working. So probably because I already had other NGRock open, and I could have added the tunnel to that one, but for now this is fine. Okay, so now we can get an answer back. That's actually kind of nice. So if I now type hi, can I get it to sign in? Yes, I can. Sure. Sign in. Here we go. Perfect. So, right. So now this bot is running in Azure. The other thing that's not working now is the redirect to the Logic app. Because if I now ask who is the SAM for customer, it's now sending the posts to the Logic app. That you have it running somewhere. Now, let's see. Let's go to my resource group. Let's go to Open Connect Tests, and then here we have this Logic app, and it should probably be failed right now. There it is, because I killed the tunnel. I closed my API locally, so that's not going to work anymore. I now need to set it up so that it can actually call my web API on the Azure domain. Therefore, I go into the custom connector that I've created here, and edit it, and I believe it was something like this for the URL. Here. So I can now update this NGRock URL with it should not include HTTP. There we go. So give it a second and it will update. And if I try it now, who is the SAM for customer? It should actually work. Perfect. Seems this time Sorry for clicking around. Go to the Logic app. You can tell it's successfully ran this time. Alright, so now we have this running in Azure, so that's great. Now what about automatically deploying it to Azure? Also maybe migrate the bot registration. It's currently still using the registration. Also the Cosmos DB, as I see from the other resource group. And we might want to fix that as well. So currently it's using this Cosmos DB account, and we want that to be another Cosmos DB account. So let's go into our Company Connect TST and add a Cosmos DB account here. So Cosmos DB is, well, like it says, a fully managed, globally distributed, horizontally scalable in storage and throughput database. And it's actually a very performant, very scalable database. And the cool thing about Cosmos DB is that you can choose which type of API you want to use. So you can use SQL, but it's also a document database. You can use Graph, I believe that's called Gremlin as a language. So, and it's also compatible with MongoDB. So it's a lot of flexibility. And basically it's very easy to set up and it's very cost efficient. So let's set it up here. Let's call it Company Connect TST. And we're going to use the SQL API. And we're going to put it in West Europe because that's closest by for us. And let's create it. Validation success. So it's now deploying our Cosmos DB. And it will take a couple of seconds, not too many. In the meantime, we can already start updating our KeyFault. So here we have, I did not explain this, but you have these double dashes between these words. These double dashes gets converted into a semicolon, and a semicolon in the I configuration separates sections. So therefore, this will create a section called AAD. We have a section Azure AD. It's a little bit confusing. We have section Cosmos DB, Dispatcher, and Q&A. And that way you can group together a couple of settings, and you can also get them as a typed object. So, for example, I do that here. So in the configuration, I get the section called Cosmos DB, and that section I get as a Cosmos DB storage options. And a Cosmos DB storage options is a built-in type of the bot builder Azure, and it has a couple of properties, and these properties match up. As you can tell, for example, here we have the Cosmos DB auth key, we have the auth key collection ID, etc. So it will automatically map these properties to this type, and that way you can quickly get a type with the configuration and use it in your code. So sections are great. and also the type conversion is great. So that's all part of the I configuration, which is again part of the here, the Microsoft extensions.configuration, which is available in .NET Core. So we want to update this. So I believe the collection ID can remain the same. It's just a name, so for bot storage. The endpoint will change, so it's something that we need to update. We take this value and we create a new version. The updated value. I cannot read that, so this is not very sensitive, but TST. That is the secret value, and this will make sure that the other version is automatically deprecated. I believe the database ID can remain the same. No, we want to create another database, of course. Let's call that just to make sure that we don't make any typos. Application ID. Still Cosmos DB. Oh, this is dispatcher. Alright, so we were already done. So the only thing left is the auth key. Are you done yet? Not yet. It's taking its time. Let's see if I'm already able to access the Cosmos DB. Here it is. Yeah, still creating, so I cannot get access to the keys yet, so that will have to wait for a bit. And the other thing that's still here is the app service. No, not the app service, the bot channels registration. So we're going to create a new bot channels registration. And a bot channels registration allows our bot to be consumed in various channels, and it also configures the authentication that we use. So in the channels you can add multiple channels. For example, I've exposed this bot to Teams and Skype and web chat, but there are other channels that we can use as well. So we can use direct line, Cortana, but also email, Facebook, Slack, Telegram, GroupMe. So a lot of options. We do not need to do anything specific within our bot code. It can just run on other channels. It will be able to leverage other features on those channels. For example, Skype is very limited in what it can show, so you do not have a lot of options for rich content, and on the other hand you can do that with Microsoft Teams, so you can have rich cards, for example, shown to the user. Let's see, so we want to make this channels registration as well. Still publishing. Okay, well, let's continue first with the channel registration then. This bot service. Alright, so now it's complete. Perfect. let's wrap that up first before we dive into anything else. So here we have the Cosmos. You said it was ready. Doesn't look ready to me. Let's refresh. There we go. Here we have the keys section, and here you can find the key. Since this key is now on screen, I want to configure this, so I'll block my screen for a second, create a new key, and then come back later. Just hang on for a short setting.
Fine, and the words they just stay inside. How about you start at the beginning? You woke up, go on, I'll listen. Is life like this? Pen to paper, alone like this? Is this how they'll see me when I'm gone? Then should I dismiss my real thoughts to protect my kids? Or should I let them see my weaknesses? How will they remember me when I'm gone? Should I let them see my weaknesses? How will they remember me when
Right, and we're back. So I've copied over the key to Cosmos DB, so I've created a new version using that key. It looks like everything is set up right now. So let's check it out. If I now, maybe I need to create a database first. That's not able. I'm not able to do this automatically. So let's add a container. And let's create a new database. It's called company connect tst. We're going to use the provision database throughput, so that it's going to be sharing the throughput across containers. And I'm going to create the container bot storage. And I believe I told it to use ITST. I'm also gonna need a different container, but that is created automatically for us. Alright, so now we have this. Let's go back to our web app and restart it. So it's gonna load the different settings for the Cosmos DB from our KeyFault. So if you just jumped in to the stream, welcome. Thanks for watching. Hope you can learn something from what I'm doing. I'm also interested to learn from others as well. So if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat. Let me know who is watching. I'd always love to know who is watching and where you're from. And make sure to follow my channel if you like my content and want to get notified when my next stream is. So my current schedule is going to be on Wednesdays around this time, and on Mondays in the evening for Europeans, in the afternoon for Americans. So it's going to be 7 p.m. In Central European time. So yeah, we're working here on a chatbot using the Microsoft Bot Framework, and I'm now migrating that bot to a new resource group, so that we have all the settings correctly in place. Let's see, what was I doing? Yeah, so in the app service we need to restart it, so that pulls the data again from the Azure KeyFault. Right. And if all is working, we can continue to chat. Yes, at least it loads, so that's good. Let's see if it wants to respond. It responds, so that appears to be working. And we can check that out. So in the spot storage, I was expecting some data. Why don't I see anything here? Let me try to call the dialog. Who is the SIM of the customer? Okay, that's definitely looks like something went wrong. Maybe I need to create. I thought I was creating it automatically, but maybe I need to create it manually. I believe I will call the dialogs and partition key is tenant ID. So let's try that again. This time it works. There we go. Some data. Maybe I do not store anything at the moment. I store a conversation reference, but I know I store those as well here. Oh. Okay. It looks like the move to the Cosmos DB works, so that's fine. Now let's also migrate the bot registration. Therefore, I go back to the other resource group. There's bot channels registration, and we're going to create one over here. Add bot channels registration. Enter the bot name. Let's call it Company Connects. Just need to be globally unique. Yeah. Company Connects TST. In this resource group, of course, we also want this in West Europe. Then the endpoint is this. API/messages. We'll turn application insights on later. And let's create one. Yes, we want to create. I think I know what to do, but let's check it out to be certain. I want to create an app registration. So now we have these over here. And I want to create a new registration. And that's going to be the CocoaBot test. Shall I call it Company Connect CocoaBot? Who can use this application or access this API? Accounts in this organization, accounts in an organizational directory. I want to use that because I want to make it multi-tenant. I do not want to allow personal accounts, so it's just going to be for organizations right now. And the redirect URI, we might be able to get that from settings here. Oh, this one doesn't have any callback URIs, so we can leave that empty. Alright, cool. Then this is the application ID. Perfect. Paste it in there. And then I also need to generate a key, but because that is sensitive information as well, I'm gonna briefly hide my screen and get back once I've copied the key. Hanging there. I'll be back in a second. Alright, I've generated the key and I've copied it, so it's now in my clipboard. I can now go here and paste it in. And what I'll do right away, as long as I have this key in my clipboards, I also need to update it here. So put the secrets, and then we have the Microsoft app password here. Let's add a new version. There we go. So we've updated it here. Now we need to also update it here. And how do I do that? Do I need to create a new? Ah, great. Kind of sucks. Okay, we'll fix that in a bit. At least I need to set the application ID there as well. Where was I? I was here. So it needs to be the new ID. I need to update it. KeyFault. So ID. New version. Wait. Refresh. Great. And then I'll also update the password, but since it's not protected, I'll go away for a brief moment once I've copied it from here. There we go. Copy. I'm gonna paste it in here and press save. There we go. All right, so still responding. Not sure if we already completed all the work. Create the, probably I did. The bot channels registration. Yeah. So this is now the bot channels registration. Perfect. Currently we do not have any channels set up except the web chat that's being used by the emulator. And do not have an icon yet, but it's fine. We're gonna name this Coco Test as a display name. That makes a little bit more sense. And we're gonna set up the OAuth settings. For Azure AD, I believe this needed to line up with name. Where did we use that name? Oh yeah, that was in the main dialog. This name needs to line up. And we're gonna use Azure Active Directory v2. We're gonna use the client ID secrets, tenant ID. And we should be able to use the same. This is probably not sensitive. This is also not sensitive. So I want to make sure that I get this right. First, the client ID. We can use the same app registration probably. So let's do that. So we'll go to Azure Active Directory. And we go to our app registrations. And here we have Company Connect CocoBots. So this is the ID. And the tenant ID is also here as well. And the scopes, yeah. How did that work? Therefore, we can always look in the documentation. That's what I was looking for. So in the docs, you have this add authentication to your bot via Azure bot service. That's what I've been following. Right, create your bot resource. That's what we've done. Create and register your Azure AD application. That's what we've done. Open the Azure Active Directory. So specify this redirect URI for app registration. That's step 1. Once it's created, Azure displays overview, application. That's what we've already set up. We have set up a client secrets, and on the API permissions, we're gonna set the user reads. Basically, all the things that do not need admin consent, but we need the user read in order to sign in the user. That's the most important. Probably that's already selected. Yes. So that means that we can sign in and read the user profile. That's all we need to do for now. That's fine. We now have the Azure AD application configured. Then register Azure AD application with your bot. So we went to the OAuth connection settings. We picked Azure Active Directory. I'm going to use Azure AD v2. So we've provided client ID, tenant ID, client secret. I will provide any seconds. And also here we need to specify the user read scope, since that's the only one we currently will be using. There we go. And that should be it. So the only thing I need to enter is the client secrets, but since this is not protected, I'll switch back and first copy it. It's the app passwords, which is basically the secrets. And I'm gonna paste it in here. But I'm gonna do this.
Bad things don't always happen to bad people. Forces that be, please get this unchecked evil. My hair's falling out while he plays with his kids. His loving wife who won't know what he did. Each day I'm getting more distant and shy, while he's out there living an untarnished life. Would I be glad if he ceased to exist? No, I'd still be.
Alright, I'm back again. Yeah, so I've entered the client secret and I pressed the test connection. This allowed me to sign in, and it now tells me that the connection succeeded. So that's perfect. So we've set this up. Good. That should mean that we should now be able to sign in again. So yeah, I believe we have set up everything correctly, didn't we? So let's restart the conversation and see if it's still working. And it didn't. 401. What could that mean? What happens if we do this? Of course, we need to restart. Yeah, that's not working. So this is probably fine. Let's go back to our resource group web app. We need to restart it because it needs to load the new settings. Here we go to the resource group. And we go to the service. There we go. Let's restart this. Then give it a moment to refresh. Right, it's loading again. Pulling in the new data from KeyFault with the new app ID and app password. It should line up with what I have in my emulator here. So let's see if this works better. There we go. So now it's using the other app registration, the other channels registration, sorry, the bot channels registration. Excellent. Well, this is actually really great. So now if we say hi, for example, it asks us to sign in. Sure, go ahead. Then currently I'm signed in with my InSpark accounts. That works. Now let's try to see what happens if we sign in with a different account. Let's see if it's from a different tenant. Still things. Does this work? Yeah. Probably still signed in. That kind of sucks. Sign in with Azure. What does that do? No, that's not what I want to do. So let's kill it and restart the emulator. Hopefully that allows me to sign in again, but then using a different account. See if this works. do not want to sign in. With an InSpark account, I wanted to sign in with something else. Does it work? Perhaps demo in Spark. For example, I'm going to sign in using LMD. Yeah, it works. It was just caching the latest tenants. Skip for now. Yeah, that's correct. Alright, we'll have to figure that out a different time, how to make it really multi-tenant. So what we are looking at today is actually getting it up and running. So now we have it all set up in Azure. So now all running over here. Can we make it so that we can automatically deploy it? Start off with the not the observers, but with the API, you can build and deploy that. Therefore, we move over to Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps, then let's find, it's called again Company Connects. It's currently still in the Nikki branch. I think we had a build pipeline here already. Yeah. Maybe I want to migrate the source code to our Company Connect. What to do. Yeah, let's do that right away. So we have a Company Connects project. We have repos here. Let's create a new repository for Cocoa. Let's add a README and let's add a Visual Studio Git ignore. We'll get rid of most of the build artifacts. Clone this thing locally. So let's go to source, repos, git clone, boom. Maybe Cocoa is not really the best. Maybe you want to call it API, because it's basically an API that you can chat against. Yeah, so let's get rid of this repository. Delete Cocoa. New repository. Let's just call this API. Again, we're going to create a README and add a git ignore. And let's try this again, but this time not for Cocoa, for API. And let's put it in okay, dear company connect. Boom. Clone. Go. API. Basically an empty directory, and we're going to move over these files there. Let's close Visual Studio. Let's go to our repos, Nikki v4. Let's copy these two folders to Company Connect API. And let's rename it to API. And then how do I get ignore? Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. API. Let's open it. Yes, you're missing a project. I know. Let's add existing projects. Called API. Let's rename everything namespace Nikki to namespace API. Control Shift F maybe. There's Nikki. Control Shift H. Namespace API. Within there, replace all. Okay, cool. Build, see if this thing still builds. You don't need to use that. I'll replace all. How is this possible? Also gonna replace these using Nikki using API. Which oh, that's not what I want to do. I'm looking in the wrong directory. That's my bad. I want to look into the entire solution. Replace all. Yes. There we go. And now also the namespace replacement. Namespace Nikki. Namespace API. Replace all. Yes. Clean up a bit. Perfect. Clean this up a bit. Okay, perfect. Now let's see. Can we build this thing? We can build it. Some legacy stuff in here. So let's go here. Assembly name is going to be inspar.company connect.api. Cool. So that's fixed. Can we run it? I did not want to run it in iOS Express. Can better run it in Kestrel. Manager. So why is this called Nikki? Want to rename that? Let's see where we still have name Nikki. Go. Launch settings. So maybe we should remove the iOS Express altogether because I dislike it. And let's just call this Kestrel. Okay. And to open this. It's running in a different it's running over here. Hi. Is it now actually hitting my rebranded version? Check it out. Hi. Oh, yeah, it is. That's probably now giving me some issues, or isn't it? It's still working fine. Okay. So now we've actually renamed this thing. Let's also add a folder for the bots. Then move bots to the bots folder. I don't think it will take a long time, why should it? Let's add these files there as well. Let's call this one CocoaDev. And let's rename this to CocoaBots. Okay. Now this is all stuff that's history. We don't need that anymore. So let's get rid of it. And this as well. Let's get rid of this. Rid of this. We actually can get rid of all of the ones here because we have some. We have one default file up here now. And Cocoa. So we're not going to use the pod services anymore. We're not going to use the dialogues anymore. I'm going to use operation. Dialog state accessor. Do we need it? It's assigned to but never used. All right. That looks fine. Let's ensure that the namespace aligns. This is going to be API.bots. Let's clean up a bit. There we go. And then in the startup, we need to refer to CocoaBots. And CocoaBot is bots. Let's make sure that we have not any other references to Nicky bots. This looks fine. Let's go to changes. Initial rebrand of Nikki to Coco. Let's push these changes. Perfect, so now in our repository for the API, we have our source codes, and next we can set up a build, but we've run out of time for that for today. So what we may do as a final step today is publish this to Company Connect. Maybe not the debug version this time, it's release version. Save, publish, so that we have the final rebranded version, Coco. Okay, let's try to chat with it. Okay. Almost there. Starting up. Sorry, looks like something went wrong. Shoot. Well, we'll figure that out next time. Alright, so we're gonna wrap up for today. So today we migrated our existing bot Nikki to a new location and a new resource group in Azure. We've configured all the security settings, make sure that all the configuration is set up in Azure KeyFault to make it secure. And yeah, we've rebranded a lot of stuff in the app and moved it to a new Git repo. We currently have an issue that the bot is not running perfectly fine anymore, but that's we're gonna fix that next time, and we're gonna set up a automatic deployment to Azure next time. And the next time is going to be on Monday evening, 7 p.m. Central European time. So make sure that you follow this channel and turn on that notification so that you get notified when the next stream is going to start, and we'll continue working on our chatbots and ensure that it's going to be alive and kicking. Thanks for following along, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.